There's a silent storm brewing in the Bay, a whisper in the wind that could rewrite the Warriors' fate and either light the fuse on another championship burst or expose fractures we never saw coming. This is about the arrival of a season. Assassin, Khris Middleton, whose unexpected journey from Milwaukee royalty to Washington put him squarely on Golden State's radar, promising to bolster Curry and team with a quiet but deadly resolve. Welcome back to Warriors News Fan Report, where raw truths collide with splash-era passion. Smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so your heart never misses a beat. Every offseason brings its share of drama, but this one feels different, charged with tension beneath the surface as the Warriors map out their win-now blueprint. While chatter has swirled endlessly around Boston's Al Horford and the Celtics' maneuvers, our focus sharpens on Khris Middleton, a $33.3 million Washington Wizards star cast adrift by cap constraints and youth movement. Suddenly a tantalizing payout candidate with a pedigree as gilded as his championship ring. Middleton's story is more than a trade rumor. It's a saga of resilience and reinvention. For over a decade, he wore Milwaukee's colors with distinction, emerging not only as Giannis Antetokounmpo's most trusted confidant, but as a clutch forward whose quiet consistency in the 2021 playoffs, averaging a marked 23.6 points, 7.6 boards, and 5.1 assists on near 44% shooting, helped secure the Bucks' long-awaited title. That level of playoff poise, that cool under crushing pressure, is exactly the kind of seasoning the Warriors crave. A sidekick who's danced on the sport's biggest stage and come away victorious. Middleton's midseason trade to Washington blindsided many, dropped into a Wizards roster realigning around youth and trimmed veterans like Marcus Smart, sparking whispers among insiders like G.C. Belcamber, who underlined Middleton's abrupt departure. After parts of 11 seasons with Milwaukee, his deal to the Wizards was a shock, driven by cap crunches rather than a decline in skill. He hasn't exactly lit the league on fire this season, his numbers modest at 10.7 points, 3.7 rebounds, and 3.4 assists per game across 14 appearances, but it's his intangible value, his veteran leadership and playoff experience, that Golden State sees as a potential game-changer. Picture Middleton sliding seamlessly into the Warriors' wing rotation, a stabilizing presence beside the explosive Moses Moody and the younger talent hungry to prove their splash-era worth. The Warriors' front office is no stranger to bold veteran pickups, famously weaving experienced pieces into a championship-winning tapestry alongside the indefatigable Steph Curry. Middleton, with his 6'7" frame, defensive versatility, and reliable scoring ability, wouldn't just fill minutes, he could shift the tide in tight playoff moments, providing a third or fourth offensive weapon that defenders simply cannot ignore. But here's the under-the-radar bomb no one saw coming. Middleton's contract status, a hefty extension inked with Milwaukee worth $93 million over 3 years, now in its final chapter, makes him an intriguing buyout candidate precisely because Washington seeks to tile its roster with youth at the expense of veterans. Could the Warriors swing a low-cost deal that injects experience without upending chemistry? The math and timing line up tantalizingly. Could this be the watershed moment that turns everything on its head for Dub Nation? History reminds us how critical each roster move has been. Tony Allen's defensive grit in the early years, Andre Iguodala's defensive mastery, and how the Splash Brothers' rise coincided with advisors and support casts who could step up when the pressure blistered. Middleton's playoff clutch gene could rekindle a lost dynamic, that relentless push that carried Golden State through thick and thin during their dynasty run. But at 33, and with athleticism that has admittedly dipped from his prime, does Middleton still possess enough burst to keep pace with Curry's supersonic game and the young legs of Kuminga and Moody? Will his presence serve as a calming balm to Draymond Green's intensity, or add a combustible edge on defense to complement Klay Thompson's sharpshooting? The risks and rewards are tangled in suspense. There's a tantalizing possibility here not. just a band-aid to the Warriors' wings, but a fundamental shift in their competitive DNA as they stare down the 2024 playoffs. Golden State's front office must weigh whether Middleton is the short-term spark to blaze through rival contenders or a gamble that might unsettle a roster striving for cohesion. Meanwhile, the narrative stirs: could Chris Middleton's acquisition be the cure for lingering uncertainties about depth scoring and wing defense? Or does it hint at deeper vulnerabilities in the Warriors' blueprint, a tacit admission that the current core might be stretched thin, forcing a recalibration of championship expectations? The echoes of the "we believe" era linger. How the underdog spirit and brash ingenuity propelled a scrappy team beyond perceived limits. Could Middleton's veteran savvy harness that same restless energy, melding old and new Warriors philosophies into a formidable force? As a lifelong Dub Nation believer, my pulse is racing just writing this. The stakes couldn't be higher, the potential impact monumental. But is this the ignition point for our next title run, or the crack that splits our legacy? Drop your unfiltered takes in the comments. I'll be right there, heart in hand. If you're feeling that fierce heat of possibility, this isn't just another roster rumor. It's a seismic jolt that asks every true Dub Nation heart: are we witnessing the dawn of the next dynasty, or standing at the edge of a chasm that could swallow our championship dreams whole? Chris Middleton walking through those shiny Chase Center doors would be more than a trade. It would be a statement carved in thunder, an answer to every sleepless night spent watching our wings wilt in tight games and painful playoff moments. But God, the questions ricochet like shots fired in a war zone. How does the chemistry even begin to rebuild? Steph, the Sisyphean warrior who's carved his name deeper than anyone in this sport, can he really weave Middleton's quiet fire into the chaotic brilliance that fuels him? Because Steph doesn't just need a shooter, he needs a co-pilot who can think 5 steps ahead, handle the heat, and never blink. And yeah, Middleton's clutch DNA sings that tune, but is it in silicon or bone now? The years have sculpted him into a master of patience, a steady hand, but can that calmness counterbalance Draymond's fiery intensity or sharpen Klay's off-ball hunts when defenses collapse with the desperation of last chance? This is a roster that has prided itself on rhythm and flow, on spacing blended with relentless pace. Middleton's game is less electric bounce and more surgical precision, one that demands new gears, new trust, and a willingness from Kerr to tinker like a mad scientist who knows that legacy won't bow to stale tactics. And what about Moody and Kuminga, those explosive young guns itching for minutes and respect? Will Middleton's presence inspire their next evolution, or cage their raw ambition beneath the weight of veteran caution? The Warriors built their dynasty on audacity, the splash, the spin, the relentless in-your-face confidence. But this move feels like a pivot back towards wisdom. That feels like a risk, a chance that delicate balance might tip. Because Middleton's arrival also whispers darker truths. Is Golden State admitting the core years of their dynasty are indeed waning? Are those 5 straight finals appearances now relics of a past too stubborn to let go? This isn't fear-mongering. History has shown even the greatest dynasties hit a wall where talent fades, injuries mount, and window shutters slam shut. What if weeks from now this gamble isn't enough? What if Middleton, hurt by recent injuries and a dip in athleticism, is more band-aid than breakthrough? What if the Rockets, Lakers, or Kings watch this saga and sharpen their claws, knowing that Golden State's blueprint has cracks so deep they can smell vulnerability? Kerr's made magic before with smaller lineups and out-of-the-box thinking, but Middleton changes the math. That $33 million cap hit, the inevitable reduction in minutes for younger players, the tension of integrating a veteran who's not long ago a three-point threat but now a volume mid-range mid-tier scorer. This is a seismic roster chess match, not a happy hour pickup. And in the locker room, how will the vibe shift? Warriors culture has always been equal parts relentless hustle and fam-bonded brotherhood. Middleton is a man who's battled for relevance post-Milwaukee, a king brought low and now hungry for redemption. That hunger can ignite or isolate. Will the rising stars see him as a mentor, a stabilizing lighthouse? Or will there be subtle fractures where ego clashes, subtle resentments bubble beneath the smiles? And then there's the looming shadow of the playoffs, the crucible where legends are forged or shattered beyond repair. Steph Curry's legacy is already eternal. But if Middleton can add his clutch moments, if Draymond can light a defensive firestorm fueled by Middleton's tenacity, and if Klay finds new rhythm in his shot alongside this veteran core, then maybe, just maybe this sparks the renaissance Dub Nation desperately craves. But if not, if Middleton's presence, however well-intentioned, unsettles the delicate chemistry so painstakingly built, if it pulls focus from the young blades growing sharp enough to slice through contenders, we're looking at an offseason that might haunt us for years, a moment that fractures more than it fixes. This isn't fantasy or idle chatter. It's the nexus where hope meets hard decision-making. For a franchise that simmered on the edge of greatness anew while battling the hardships of injuries, cap labyrinths, and a league chasing speed and youth, Middleton represents both a lighthouse and a warning flare. As a lifelong Warriors lifer who's rooted for every splash and weathered every storm from the heartbreaker finals losses to every last-second buzzer beat, from Curry's ankle agony to Thompson's long, lonely nights, my gut tells me this massive. It's bigger than just a player or a season. It's about Golden State's identity morphing under our very eyes, about whether we lean into veteran savvy or sprint raw and wild into the future. That's why this is all so raw, so electric, and why your voice has to roar louder than ever. The franchise needs this conversation. It needs us to push beyond polite debate and naming names. So if you believe Chris Middleton taps into a forgotten spark that lights up the hardwood like no one else can, or if you fear this move breaks a delicate ecosystem famed for its seamless beauty, shout it loud right here. Pour your fire into the comments. Rip apart the narrative. Defend the old guard, champion the youth, or call for a reckoning. This isn't just a trade rumor. It's a crossroads where legacy meets destiny. As someone who bled blue and gold under every playoff floodlight, who screamed every shot and marched in every parade, I feel the air crackling, the horizon bending, and know that wherever this Middleton saga lands, Dub Nation will rise. Fight, and never let the dream die without a furious roar. Now drop your hottest take below, no filter. No fear, I'm here, heart in hand, ready to dive deep into the chaos with you.